what happens is cool, but it needs to be rewritten. It's not written well. It doesn't really pull the excitement action. You yourself have said why in the past. Because they didn't get into interior monologues back then.
Oh, if that's exciting, okay, then yeah, I find that kind of boring. But
because you get character motivation beyond the surface stuff.
Yeah, see,
know?
I don't. Those are the parts I skip when I. Like, I don't care. I really don't.
I want to know motivation. I want to know why this character's doing this, what they're thinking when they're doing it.
Irrelevant.
Yeah, I can.
So the NRDV, the new revised Dan version.
Yes, exactly. Right. It's action, excitement, adventure, and interior monologue.
Right. What's the interior monologue?
Church in space.
Welcome everybody to Church in Space.
In 3D.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm just depressed. Just sad. Like, we're doing the science fiction conference realignment game. This is Drew's idea. It's a good idea. So this is based off, Dan, for your benefit, since you know nothing about sports. I assume you don't understand this.
No, you are correct in your assumption.
Still after the third time explaining.
In college football, each teams are divided into conferences. And
is that where they decide, like, what's going to happen that year?
Well, it's like it's who you play.
Well, that's the
year.
Disney, Fox, and ABC annual meetings where they
right,
decide the fate of. Anyway,
anyway, if you're a conspiracy theorist, most teams are in conferences, and conferences basically determine who you play, right?
Okay,
and they started off as regional. So, like, the Big Ten was the 10 teams in the Midwest.
Let me guess, the Pac-10 was out on the West Coast.
Yes, you've got it.
Yay!
And then it became, and then ever so often there's what we call, and it happens more frequently now due to television money, there's what we call conference realignment, where
they go to the chiropractor.
No, where they teams shift conference. Add some teams. Some conferences sometimes lose them. And if things go really badly in the conference realignment game, your conference dies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So conferences do go extinct.
Yes, they do go extinct. So the first one to do this was in like the early 2000s was the Big East, which just died.
Yeah.
The Big Ten and the ACC.
Big 12.
And the Big 12 just basically raided it and gobbled up all their teams.
Wow.
So we had another round of conference realignment, which is why this is topical. And basically the Big Ten has eaten the Pac-12.
So the Pac-12 is now extinct like the Big East?
It's mostly extinct. It's trying to pretend it exists, but any team that's worth watching is now in another conference.
So do the numbers next to the names mean anything anymore?
They used to. They don't really anymore.
Okay. So they also need branding work.
They do.
Well, it doesn't help that a good majority of the population on the West Coast does not care about football.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the population, basically east of the Rockies, cares a lot about college football. So it's they care a lot more. Therefore, the money's in the middle to eastern part of the United States.
This is very enlightening.
Yeah,
that's fascinating. So what does the West Coast into?
Oh,
basketball?
Yeah, basketball, soccer.
A little bit of hockey now.
Okay.
Being beautiful.
Yeah.
Like it is.
I mean, raining too.
That kind of stuff. And since I'm a Notre Dame fan, there are a few schools that are independents, we call them. We don't belong to conferences because they're dirty and sinful.
Yes.
And we are the holy people. Like us and the Mormons are the only people who don't belong to a conference.
No, BYU's in Big 12 now.
Oh, it's true, BYU. You abandoned us, Mormons. No.
It's all your fault, but that's not the point. But it got to the point where entire schools were getting less money than people that were playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like an individual quarterback would make more money than the whole school.
So Christian McCaffrey, who was a running back for the San Francisco 49ers, would have made more money himself than the entire school of Stanford, where he went to school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Which is why the Pac-12 died.
Yes.
So rest in peace, Pac-12. We didn't love you, but you existed. And
rest in peace, the Rose Bowl.
Right. Yeah, I'm not even sure what the Rose Bowl is.
That's a semifinal game now.
I've actually heard of the Rose Bowl.
The Rose Bowl. Whoa. So
yeah,
I'm impressed. So the Rose Bowl,
Pasadena, California.
So tradition has stated that the Rose Bowl is the bowl played between the winner of the Pac-12 and the winner of the Big Ten, and that's what it's always been.
Oh.
But now that both the Big Ten has like 4 of the biggest schools from the former Pac-12, and the Pac-12 is defunct, it's kind of like, well, what is what is the Rose Bowl anymore?
Well, and also, how many schools are in the Big Ten?
18.
18? Yeah. If we get 2 more, it can be the Big Ten because there's 2 different divisions in the conference.
Mr. Notre Dame, we're waiting on you.
No, we're not going to join.
Yeah, you are.
We are holy and pure.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
All right, speaking of games, so our topic, the reason we go into all that is because our topic is science fiction realignment. So this is going to be a round-robin type exercise where it's going to start off where I will start, that's me, Dave, by saying I get to transport one character from any science fiction universe into another science fiction universe.
Okay.
Drew will then get to transport any one character from the Bible into a science fiction universe. I'm really excited about this one, actually.
I know.
And Dan will have to transport any one science fiction character into the Bible.
All right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And then in round 2, we will just move all those down, and we'll do it differently. And then in round 3, everybody moves again, so we'll have an opportunity at each category.
Okay.
And we will go.
I accept your challenge.
Game makes sense to everybody?
It does.
Okay.
It's also on our phone, on my phone, and now it's on your phone because I texted you so that we don't lose this again.
Okay. I will start science fiction to science fiction. I am moving The Mandalorian into Star Trek.
Which one?
Next Generation, specifically.
No, which Mandalorian? Din Djarin?
Yeah, Din Djarin.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. There's a lot of Mandalorians out there.
Yeah. There's a few of them now, right? The Mandalorian, right?
I remember when the only Mandalorian was Boba Fett.
I know.
Well, and we're also talking about Mandalorian, like the actual, like the guy.
No, right.
Okay.
Yeah. Djinn.
Okay.
He's going into Star Trek Next Generation specifically because I think it would be just kind of awesome because what Star Trek's missing is a coherent account of religion, right? Which is all The Mandalorian is about. You know, it's a religion.
It is the way.
It is the way. And they're missing, Star Trek's always missing, like, especially the Next Generation, it's missing, like, the freelancer. Here's this phenomenally large universe, and it seems like the whole universe is nice and boxed up. You know, you got the Klingons, the Cardassians, the Romulans. Like, you never get the freelancer.
Right. There's no Harcourt Fenton Mudd.
Right.
Or like Cyrano Jones.
The Orion Pirates. Or some of that. Like, Next Generation really needs that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the one guy that came aboard that was the roguish character.
That Billy Campbell played.
Yeah. But that was it.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Although Billy Campbell was quite good.
Right. And
fresh off Rocketeer.
I think that's what they were trying to do with the Ferengi, like later on, you know, like they're free traders, but like they end up being just their own kind of coherent race.
And even that was it was hard to align.
Yeah.
Because all through Next Gen, it was a collective of these capitalists gone wild.
And they were supposed to be the bad guys.
Right. And then suddenly in Deep Space Nine, then they start to try to retcon it.
Right. Then
so they all operate independently.
Right. Then they're the lovable, huggable Ferengi. You know, like they're kind of comic relief in DS9.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think so this problem is solved then by the Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. And so he is in the Star Trek universe trying to rebuild his people, right? And this is easy for them to do because they have their code of ethics, right? He finds whatever the metal substitute is in the Star Trek universe.
Well, that'll be Latinum.
Right, Latinum or whatever it is, right? And then you have a whole series of episodes about how does Captain Picard deal with a group of freelancer religious fanatic mercenaries. You know, like, are the Klingons hiring them to do raiding operations on the Romulan border? You know, like... You know, what does a Mandalorian do when he encounters a Borg cube? You know, there's all sorts of fun things you could do with this.
Oh, Mandalorian. Oh, he's assimilated.
Amanda Borg.
Oh my gosh,
Borg Mandalorians, right? I mean,
they would be unstoppable.
They would just coat the entire outside of the cubes with Beskar and just be, ooh,
yeah.
That's just incredibly nasty.
Right, you know. Or like you could do a lot of fun things with the Romulans and the Mandalorians, right? Because the Romulans would obviously be hire them for like Federation infiltration missions and like a whole kidnapping episode where, you know.
What about Din Djarin and the Bajorans?
Right. Well, see, right? Again, another fun, like, you know, you've got Din Djarin's like sense of righteousness, and like you could do a whole series where Din Djarin is just hired to like go after and bring back to Bajor for trial Cardassian war criminals. Like,
ooh, yeah.
You know,
and I can just see it, you know, finding them on these remote outpost colonies.
He's like this, and he always brings them back for trial at the Bajoran War Crimes Tribunal or whatever, you know.
Yeah, that would click.
Yeah.
That would click.
So.
Okay, good one.
Okay. So taking from the Bible and implanting into sci-fi. Moses into Tatooine. And specifically freeing the slaves from Tatooine.
Do they roam for 40 cycles?
Yes, they do.
There's no water to part, though. I mean,
they find a moisture farm.
He has a vaporator staff.
Yeah.
It's parting of the Dune Sea.
Yeah. Kadoosh. Yeah. Okay. I'm sold.
I mean, you've got.
They kind of touch on. It's funny how Star Wars like touches on that whole slavery thing in Episode 1, and then we like never hear about it. Like,
yes, Clone Wars with the Zygarians.
Okay. Yeah, the Clone Wars, but like the movies never seem to like cycle back to it. You know, the ethical implications.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was also from a long time ago for them too. What was it like? The Sith used it as a tool. I think that's how one of the phrases goes when they were on Zygaria. Is that what the planet is?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I just want to like, so is the New Republic stamping out slavery, or are they doing what the Old Republic did, which is seem to not care? You know, like there's a lot.
Based on what we've been seeing in the post-rebellion universe, they're not doing a lot because they're having trouble establishing a true bureaucracy to run the
right. Well, right, and that's the most realistic, right? I mean, the threat all revolutions face is actually running the thing.
Yes,
after they win. Yeah.
No, that's good. I like it.
For me, it'd be the interesting part with Aaron and how they interact with everybody.
I also like the implication of the people of Tatooine as Israelites.
Yeah.
Yes. But I mean, it wasn't just, it was what? It wasn't everyone that was religious. It wasn't all Jews. It was just everybody, all the slaves left.
Yeah.
So
you'd have to switch out, though. There'd have to be one new High Holy Day on the calendar. And that would be when the 12 tribes all compete in pod racing.
Except that would probably not be a good idea because they'd be escaping the Hutts, who are the Pharaoh in this situation. That would probably not be a good thing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm sold. Yeah, that could be cool. Yeah. Okay.
I like it. All right. I'm pulling out all the stops with sci-fi to the Bible. Dr. Manhattan.
Ooh.
To the Bible.
Ooh. I'm tired of these people.
Yes. I mean, this changes everything.
Literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the Bible, Dr. Manhattan gets smote, by
Yahweh. Here's the interesting thing. This is what I like about it, right? Yeah. Finally, we have true conflict with something at stake. The thing that makes the Bible so boring, no, I'm sorry, but God's all powerful. It's like, well, he can still do whatever he wants. To have a good story, you need that tension where the main character is at stake, and Yahweh doesn't have that. Yahweh's just I'll snap my fingers and correct things if I want to. Yeah. But Dr. Manhattan can also snap his fingers and correct things.
There's this whole series of stories in the Old Testament about how the Philistines. It's a couple chapters in Samuel where the Philistines capture the Ark of the Covenant in battle one time because God's mad at the Israelites, so he doesn't let them win, even though they think, we'll bring the Ark and it'll work. They make the mistake the Nazis make in Temple or in Ark of the Covenant, Indiana Jones, right? They think, it's magic and it'll just work for us because we have it. And God's like, no. And
I'm still in charge.
Right. Yeah. And so the Philistines win and they capture the Ark, and the Philistines kind of think, we'll put it in the Temple of Dagon and it'll be great. And in these increasing series of disasters keep happening. So like the first day, like the they put it in the Temple of Dagon. They find the statue of Dagon is fallen over in the direction of the ark. They're like, oh, that's weird. And they set it back up. And then 2 days later, they figure out that they find the statue's fallen and its hands and its heads have been broken off. A week later, there's a plague in the whole city. Finally, the Philistines are like, we're so sick of this thing. They just stick it on a cart with an ox and get it to go. Like, not even with a driver. Just get out of here. And I kind of think that's how that storyline would go with Dr. Manhattan.
But it would still, you may know what the end is going to be, but there it's got potential for a climactic battle, a duel, a lot of... No other character in the Bible really presents a power threat.
Yeah.
And Dr. Manhattan would be the closest to do that. Yeah. So I would add that so you finally have a worthy opponent to the protagonist.
Yeah.
See, I heard the recovering heretic in there for a little bit about calling the Bible boring. So I feel like, Dr. Manhattan is your pick for that for that reason.
I mean, I used to tell my mom, it's like, because in our tradition, listeners, we have 3 readings in worship from the Bible. And I used to tell my mom, it's usually one from the Old Testament, one from the Paul's letters, and one from the New Testament, from the Gospels. And I used to tell my mom, why can't we have 3 readings from the Old Testament? Jesus is boring. All he does is talk.
Amen. Yes. May I just say amen? Yeah. I mean, if you're going to have any interest, it's in the Old Testament.
Yep.
Paul is boring. I would fall asleep if I was there in person for his speeches. And the New Testament.
What's crazy is they were letters that were read out loud by somebody.
Yeah, even more worse.
Right? So that's what's
so crazy. What little excitement there is in the Bible is the Old Testament. Yeah. And so it's fun. So there you go.
Yeah.
I can't give it a 5-star rating if there's only like three books within it that I like.
You haven't read Samuel. You haven't read 1st and 2nd Samuel.
I have. I've read the whole thing, cover to cover.
You need to read 1st and 2nd Samuel again.
Reread.
It's like Game of Thrones, man.
Maybe I need... No. I get back to my point of what happens is cool, but it needs to be rewritten. It's not written well. It doesn't really pull the excitement, action.
So
and you yourself have said why in the past.
About?
Because they didn't get into interior monologues back then.
Oh, if that's what you're like, if that's exciting, okay, then yeah, I find that kind of boring. But
because you get character motivation, beyond the surface stuff.
What's the interior monologue?
I think Goliath.
If that's what you want, then yes.
Look at Goliath and the Philistines, right? Here, David goes, he displays that he has absolutely no honor and no one should ever trust David because he violates the warrior code in his one-on-one duel with Goliath.
Yeah.
And I just sit there and think, in that moment between being struck with an illegal weapon and dying, what was Goliath thinking of like, who is this kid? He doesn't know how to be a warrior. And the Philistines themselves, right? They basically have this treaty that whoever loses the battle gets to leave in peace, because the whole point of that one-on-one warrior thing was to save lives.
Yep.
And so the whole deal was, if David slays Goliath, then the Philistines get to walk away and go back to their... And no. David slays Goliath, and they just wipe him out. Yeah. If we told that story today, then David would be the arch villain because he's violating everything.
I guess I would, in all seriousness, where I would push back is I would say you're forgetting that the story told from the underside. Like it's a story from the perspective of the oppressed.
Yeah.
In this equation, right, the Israelites are the oppressed ones by the Philistines, right?
It's relying on that. And even look at how we tell the stories today of the oppressed people. We're always careful that the oppressed people are portrayed as the ones who stick to their ethics, stick to the honor codes.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're almost... I actually think that gets us in a lot of trouble because it gets us into this really naive place where you then begin justifying the oppressors because the oppressed didn't stick to that honor code that you think they're supposed to stick to.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the Bible's just radically honest about that. It's like, no, these are, the oppressed people rising up. and they will rise up and do their thing no matter what.
But and that's where the problem is, right? It's from an ethics standpoint.
See, and I guess I would say the Bible's more. I think the Bible's more ethically correct in that regard. It's like the casting of the mighty down from their thrones has the outcome is what's important there. The overthrowing.
But I think that's what leads to then Israel itself needing to be overthrown when the kings themselves become corrupt.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
because when the oppressed don't stick to their moral guidelines, and then they become the oppressor as a result of that because they've lost their code. They've lost their memory of what it was like to be oppressed.
But the code is not in relation to how do we deal with the oppressors. The code is in relation to how do we deal with the less fortunate.
Yeah.
Which is actually God's problem is, that's why God sends the Babylonians in the end. Is,
right.
It's not actually, it's how do your code is always in relation to the less fortunate, not to your oppressors.
But when we're sticking to the Bible in this talk, but historically, that's what we see happen again and again and again.
Oh, yeah.
The oppressed, the oppressed who don't stick to their codes, when they become in power, they become oppressors themselves.
Yeah. I mean, this is the problem of sin we're getting into.
This is ending up getting much deeper than it was supposed to.
Yes, I feel oppressed over here because it's Pastor and the recovering heretic on the podcast. But
yeah, sorry, Drew, we forgot about that.
We just hijacked everything. We oppressed you.
You can a lot of the I was telling Bible study this the other day. I was saying like the interpretive key to much violence in the Bible is to understand that the Bible is expressly written from the perspective of the oppressed, and it has no problem with that. Kind of like stating that that's the correct viewpoint, and that the scandal of the Old Testament is that God is particular. Like God is particular on the side of oppressed people. The oppressors, whether that's Egypt or the Philistines or they will feel the full, unmitigated, unhonorable blunt, of God's work, and that's fine.
Yeah,
with the Almighty is kind of like
to carry that forward. I think it is a warning sign for all who are in power, even if they are the formerly oppressed.
Yeah,
I think the lesson that comes across in the Bible over and over and over again is you may have been the oppressed, in which case I was right there with you.
Yeah.
But when you become the oppressor,
right,
I'm going to have to remind you.
Right. I'm going to have to remind you whose side I'm really on. Yeah. Well, round 2.
Wow. Yeah. Let's see if we can get a little lighthearted.
Yes.
And involve Drew.
Right.
See, all we had to do was one round and our energy went whoop.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Round 2. So I'm starting off with science fiction to the Bible. I want to see hobbits put in the Bible.
Ooh.
Oh. Yeah.
Like, for a lot of reasons, like, I know Tolkien portrays them as, like, this is the ideal society. But in a lot of ways, like, they're actually kind of like the anti-biblical vision of what the good life is, right? Like, they're really just about doing their thing, like eating, eating and drinking and partying, right? That's all they're about.
And I'm waiting for the part where you say it's not.
Yeah.
Well,
so far it is sounding pretty idyllic.
I know. Well, it is idyllic for us, right? But like, can't you imagine John the Baptist showing up on the shores of the Shire, going, repent for the kingdom of God has come near. And then looking at Bilbo Baggins and going, who told you to flee from the wrath to come? I could hear a lot of Old Testament prophetic rants being directed against that kind of Shire culture.
Yeah, but I think it would be about as effective as the evangelical preachers on college campuses.
Probably, but I'd love for the interplay, like I'd love for what happens then with a radical ascetic hobbit movement, like.
So we're glossing over the fact that hobbits are clearly Lutherans.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, yeah. Yes, that's true too. Yeah. And I'd love to know, like, or stick them in the book of Acts with a radical messianic sect of hobbits that hold all things in common.
Yeah.
Like,
all I know is that in a hobbit church, the celebration of the Eucharist would be a feast. There would be first Eucharist, then second Eucharist,
then third
and Eucharisty.
Right, and then I want to know, like, Paul's letter to be like, you only need it once, guys. Like, Like there's a whole chapter, 3rd Corinthians to the hobbits, like.
Let's not even get started on the serving of the wine.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Lutheran, this church, how you have those little teeny plastic cups.
Everyone gets a goblet.
Have goblets, huge goblets, tankers.
Flagons.
Like you'd need you'd get whole new books of the Bible about it, right? It'd be great.
Yeah, okay. I'm in favor of this.
Yes. So that's my science fiction of the Bible.
Let's write it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Paul's letter to the hobbits.
Yes.
Okay.
First hobbits.
Yeah. First hobbits. Second hobbits.
The first Lutheran church of the Shire.
Yeah, I want to know, right? Are there churches underground? Like, are they in the hill, or do they build above ground structures?
No, of course,
it's got to be the city on the hill.
Right. Yeah. Well, right. Yeah.
There might be a little cross on top of the hill.
Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah. So I just, there's all sorts of questions. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
The ELCS, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in the Shire.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Drew, you are science fiction to science fiction.
This is the one I had the problem with the most. Boimler. Can you let me finish, man?
Always begins with Boimler.
Boimler in the beginning of the Empire. He's coming from the background of the New Republic, and now there's the Empire, and he's in charge of,
Is he like on a Star Destroyer, or is he like in one of those like endless rows of bureaucratic offices?
Think of Andor, and he's definitely in that office space, and he has no idea what to do.
Yeah.
Eventually, he'll join the rebellion, but
be like their worst operative.
Yeah.
Like, oh God.
Yes. Because it was either that or put Pike in the same era. And I feel like Boimler would be a better choice.
Boimler would be far more entertaining.
Yeah, it would be more entertaining. Okay, I'm sold on that. That's win.
Wow.
Yep.
So Bible to sci-fi now. Huh? Mm-hmm. Okay, Bible to sci-fi. Here we go. Mm-hmm. I'm going straight up with Elisha. Is he the bear guy? Which one was the bear guy? Yeah, he's
the bear guy.
Yeah, I'm going with Elisha.
There's a lot of fun in the Elisha's such a grump.
Yeah.
He's such a cantankerous grump. I love him.
Okay. I'm going with Elisha into, again, Star Trek, TNG era.
Okay.
Not Lower Decks.
Not Lower Decks.
Really?
Not Lower Decks.
Or DS9?
So is he he would cross over well in DS9 because the Bajoran prophets, the Kai versus Elisha. That would be pretty interesting. Maybe I will shift that. I like that.
That would be a radical Kaiist messianic prophetic figure constantly announcing judgment and doom against the organized Kai.
Yeah, against the organized Kai. Initially, and that's the reason the Cardassians came. It was the false Kai.
Occasionally doing great miracles through the power of the prophet.
Okay. And it would still work, because part of it was I was picturing Elisha going up to Picard, and they were like twins.
He would work that way, too, as like a reoccurring, they occasionally bump into him. He's like this wandering prophet that they occasionally bump into across the universe, that, again, is his cantankerous self. That,
And the fact that he's bald. And personally, I feel there's too much underrepresentation of people with male pattern baldness
more bald
in sci-fi. So Elisha gets my vote in that regard, too. The follically challenged.
Yeah.
We, the follically challenged, are underrepresented.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right, Pastor, you're on Bible to sci-fi.
Round 3. So Bible to science fiction. I've done a version of this one before, so I won't say this one exactly because it'll be cheating. But so the version I've said before is the entire 1st and 2nd Samuel narrative, like a la the show Kings. Just stick it in a science fiction universe and you're fine. I will do, though, the entire 1st and 2nd Kings narrative in pick your universe. I think it could go in many, but this narrative of these dueling monarchies that sometimes are allied, sometimes are fighting, small kingdoms next to great empires, eventually leading to the destruction of both. It'd be a tragedy. Stick that in a science fiction, its own spin-off series. It would be fine. From Solomon to coming to the Babylonians.
I like it.
It would be great.
So what universe? You got to pick a universe.
Gotta pick a universe, huh? I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say stick it in the setting for Mass Effect 5 or 4.
Whoa! Okay.
Yeah. So these two small little kingdoms that are kind of religious based, on the edge of Turian and Krogan space, basically.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Dueling, and the Turians come and the Krogan can be the Assyrians and come and destroy one of them, and then the other kingdom is a Turian vassal state for a while until they rebel. The Turians come and completely obliterate them later. And ta-da!
There you go. Yeah,
Commander Shep or whoever your Commander Shepard replacement is wandering around with Liara acting as narrator because she's obviously still alive.
Solid.
That's my
solid choice.
Yeah. And that way it can be confined, because I think that's Mass Effect's problem, is you've got the whole galaxy. So, and that way it can just be in these, because Judea and Israel were, actually really small countries in the ancient world. So they can just be these 2 or 3 little systems, really confined story, confined setting. You're bouncing back and forth for missions between the two.
Well done. Well done.
Okay.
So anyway, BioWare, make this game. Read 1st and 2nd Kings. It'll be great.
You're there.
Yeah, you're there.
Luke Skywalker as Jesus' disciple.
So you are science
fiction to Bible.
Right. Yeah, okay. Luke Skywalker as Jesus' disciple.
Whiny little farm boy going across.
He's the right age.
Whiny little disciple.
Yeah.
But Lord, I just want to go to Tashi Station with my friends.
But Lord, I just want to go to Bethsaida. Yeah. Okay. I'm sold. Yep. He would fit right in.
Yeah. It clicks.
And that also means he becomes a bishop later in Christian history, right? Because they all become bishops and stuff. So Bishop Luke Skywalker.
Bishop Luke.
Yeah.
Lucius of Tatooine. Yeah, that clicks.
Yeah.
That clicks.
Right.
I mean, that was literally the entire basis of this entire episode was that.
You got that, Luke. Okay, that was the foundation of this game.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
And I had to build from there.
Uh-huh.
All right. I'm Sci-Fi to Sci-Fi to wrap things up.
Yep.
I'm going Tars Tarkas into Star Wars.
Who? What?
Tars Tarkas? Edgar Rice Burroughs' Barsoom series. John Carter of Mars, the movie, it was based on that.
Yeah.
Tars Tarkas is the leader of the Tharks, the
big aliens, the warrior aliens.
Four-armed green warrior aliens. And there are the Warhoons, who are their rival tribe of green Martians. And that's why I think it would work well. So you've got something from, well, relatively speaking, our world, our galaxy in the Star Wars universe galaxy. But what I like about it is, you've got really cool aliens, but you have one tribe that would be with the rebellion, and the other tribe, their rivals, that would be working for the Empire.
Yeah.
And then you introduce Luke Carter of Mars, and how that disrupts their balance.
Yeah.
And then leads to Barsoom or Mars becoming a total ally of the rebellion or part of the Empire.
Yeah, Star Wars tends to be totalist with its races, right?
Yeah.
All the Mon Calamari are in the rebellion, or all the
Quarren are in the Confederacy.
Yeah. Andor was the closest you got, with that one alien truck driver who was super pro Empire. That started introducing a little bit of complexity to the situation.
Finally.
Yeah, right. But before that,
nothing yet.
But before that, so it would be that would be an interesting dynamic to have same race, two different tribes. The rebellion playing out in real time.
Yeah, and especially they're both warrior races.
Right, 2 warrior races. Yeah, like a planet-wide war because one tribe is rebellion and one tribe is empire.
Yeah, Mon Cala.
Yeah. That would be a fascinating dynamic for a Star Wars. I agree with you. Yeah.
All right.
Sold.
Yay.
Any honorable mentions?
No. I think we can just end there because those two are really good. I definitely can't top those. I just have a quick image, and that's something based on stuff we said before. But that is when the New Jerusalem comes, it turns out to be a Borg cube.
Yes.
Yeah, but outside of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not a Borg cube, it's an arcology, right? You know, and it's a self-contained dome-like structure.
It's a Dyson sphere made of Beskar. We all know that.
Piloted by Dr. Manhattan.
Yes. Right. Piloted by Dr. Manhattan. If any of that happens in the apocalypse, folks, you'll be the first to hear it on Church in Space.
In 3D.
See ya.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah, Drew, you person over there.
Just bring the coffee.
I brought French roast and cappuccino.
Ooh, French roast. Ugh.
Ooh. Wow.
And since I don't drink coffee, those are the only two I could think of.
I'm definitely more French roast. Where are you, Pastor? House blend, light, something.
House blend, Colombian, like medium roast. I'm like a Dunkin' Donuts guy. Like, give me a Dunkin' coffee, and I'm fine.
I think that solved our caffeine problem.
Yep.
And our energy problem.
Mm-hmm. Where's my Mr. Fusion?